Well, hello and welcome back. I have something very special here to bring me out of hiatus. I have the We're gonna get this right. The Super Mini-Pla Golion, also known as Voltron. Now, I have wanted another Voltron in my collection for a long time. I have not had an original Voltron, and I've not had a chance to get one of the newer ones. Closest thing I've had is this little bootleg Lego dude. Lego Voltron, which I meant to do a review on. However, I've been super busy with school. Anyway, on to the main event. We have the Golion, which just came in, and it is a much larger box than I expected. This is something I thought was going to be a little bit more like the Bandai Mini-Pla I've bought in the past. That's sort of been, individual boxes, or Yugen. They're not that big of a box. But what we have here is quite big. And you can see on the side, all black and white. Same on that side. Nice illustration. On the top, the lines in combined mode, and the bottom is nothing. Now what we have in the side is a place you would tear these, and I guess you could use this as a display in a store where you would buy each one. However, I don't think that's the best way to collect these. I think it's the best to buy as a set, and I don't know if anyone's going to sell it that way. But instead of tearing the box, we can just pop the bottom open and slide these bad guys out. So let's go ahead and look at the rest of the packaging. So, from this side, they all look the same. This one does have a little bit of a dent, which is surprising since the box was intact, but there is a little bit of creasing here. Shows the different lines, so we can turn each one and see if there's anything that changes up. And what I see here is, even though the lines, all the images are the same, move these back so you guys can try to see them all, they do have individual numbering. So it is nice that they, you know which one you're going to get. Tops are all similar with their individual number. Bottoms seem to have their typical warnings, ages, manufacturing, stuff like that. And then the back all looks to be the same printing and shows the lines, the accessories, and some nice looking pose modes. So what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and get these guys out of the box, take a look at the components, then I can assemble it and we can see if this is a Voltron worthy of our collection. Now, with everything out of the box, we have each individual set of sprues that comes from each package. They all come with their gum. There's so much great candy in Japan, and I really wish Bandai would throw something in there better than this gum that they always throw in their toys. But at least this time, it's fresh. Usually by the time I buy these toys, it's been several years past its prime. And each one comes with its own individual instructions, and it looks like it covers that specific line. Now, out of all these, the most substantial would be the black line. Seems to have the most sprues, has some stickers. The arm pieces look like they'd be the smallest ones, and then the legs are next in size. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting these guys together. And since they're a model kit, I would suggest using something like this. And for the sake of being cheesy, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Let's form Voltron! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And before you, we see all the lions in their final form. Now, to give you a little heads up on the actual process of putting these together, they are a model kit. They are on sprues, and the only thing I would suggest is, one, give yourselves about 15-20 minutes at least for each lion. The stickers are probably the most tedious part. But what you want to make sure of is when you're cutting the sprues that you're not also cutting off a peg. So just make sure you observe the photo or the drawing as well as what the piece is, and make sure when you're trimming that the peg is not being cut off as well, because once that's gone, your lion is ruined. And on that note, I'll say that the leg lines probably have the best instructions. I feel like the instructions were written by possibly different people, as well as the order of the sprues, the way they were engineered. I feel like the lines were a little bit more, for the legs, were a little bit more logical in the numbering and the order of assembly, where the other ones, the arms at least, were not as much. It's a minor nitpick. It's not something that's going to ruin the kit. But one thing to factor in when you're paying for something like this was $40 from HLJ, but when you include shipping and the cost of what it usually costs here, you're looking at a $60 figure. And part of one of the things that you want to account for is the time that you're putting into it. Now, when it's a model kit, I actually consider building time one of the components of the cost, because that is part of the experience. That is part of the enjoyment that comes with it. Now, one thing that you'll notice sitting out here, Now each line is laid out with all the parts that came with. And the one thing I want to point out, and this may be a deal breaker for some of you, there's different heads for each one. I mean, you probably should have expected this, knowing that this is a mini Pla or mini model kit. There's going to be parts forming. It is not a perfect transformation piece. Now, the main line is, however, that points out another issue here, is we have scale problem. I don't think it's a huge issue, especially if you're buying this for the Voltron form, but there is kind of a discrepancy, especially with the black line. I feel like the black line should have been the beefiest, but I think to keep the combined proportions, that's what the sacrifice they had to make. Now let's go ahead and look at each line. And each line, so we've got the additional head here, and there's two ways to approach this. You could either go through, just assemble it, put stickers on, or you could take the time to paint it. And where the stickers go, the majority of them, other than the numbering stickers and maybe a couple others, you probably could spend the time and do a really nice paint job. Now the lions here, they each come with their original Golion weaponry. And so we assemble the weapons, they peg into the front shoulders, and articulation, we have jaw. Now remember, this is all a little tiny, so I'll have to kind of wedge my fingers in there. So the mouth opens, head moves, we have rotation at the neck. This actually can go up for transformation. So there's actually a lot of posability just in the head. Shoulders are on ball joints, so you can get a lot of different poses like that. The ankles are not, however, they're just a hinge. So you're going to have a little bit of angling when you're trying to do dynamic poses. Elbows move forward. Same with the hips. Hips are a ball joint. Knee, everything back here is a hinge. And the tail has two joints, very reminiscent of the original toy. And also for transformation. So we've got that. Both legs are the same, though they are nicely distinguished by different molding. Same kind of articulation as expected from the arm lions, the 2 and 3. So we have ball joints in the shoulders, hinges everywhere else. The neck doesn't have the same kind of articulation, though we do have the mouth, we do have a neck up and down position, and this is on a ball joint. So you still have a fair amount of posability, just not the looking up. You'll have to rely on the legs to sort of help with that. We do have waist such as that, and that goes with the transformation. The tails are not articulated. The tails are just a fixed piece that's on there. Now onto the black line. Black line, we have a little bit different set of articulation, though it is somewhat similar. Now the shoulders, we have this sort of hinge in here, and what you'll want to do, the pegs can go in and out. You'll actually want to push the pegs in not as far as you can. Let's see if I popped it out. Because that shoulder joint or shoulder mass will hinder the alignment. So by pulling them out, you actually get a little bit more posability. Have rotation at the bicep. Actually, no, we don't have rotation at the bicep. We have hinges at the elbow and the hands. We have rotation here at the leg, as well as it's on a hinge, or it's actually on a peg. So rotation like that. Same with the knee and the ankle. Now all the joints I feel like are a bit tighter on the main body, the black line, because I feel that is probably to help support all the weight. But these are a decent size, especially the leg ones. They're a lot bigger than I expected. I'm used to Mugen Saga, which are considerably smaller, and the price is about the same. So I feel like you are getting a lot. Now one thing, this is probably the most standout ugly thing about the whole set, is the black lion's head. Because if you look at the neck here, it's just this strange long neck joint. We do have the articulated jaw, we do have some posability there and there, but I don't know. Unfortunately, that's how it is. Since this thing part forms, I probably would have liked to have seen some sort of different head option for that. This lion is the only one without an extra head. However, something was done to this one that I believe really should have been done in the other ones to make this a more premium kit. I would have gladly paid the extra $20 for the whole thing to be done like this. And that is, the lion's face on the black line was already painted. I think because of this being the main display piece that's meant to be the Voltron head, that and the actual face for Voltron were both painted, and I think that is something that would have really improved this kit. If they tampoed everything and all that, one thing that's really neat is that the crest here is actually different colored components that assemble together. There are 2 stickers on the side. These stickers, and that is another thing of warning, I mentioned that they are tedious. They have a lot of tack. The moment you put them down, they will grab. And because of that, you just need to be aware that you want to get the placement right the first time. Because if you put it on there, and then you have to readjust it, it kind of wrinkles the sticker very easily, and that's not something that seems to come out very well. It doesn't stand out, especially when you're displaying this on the shelf and it's got some distance, but there's a couple that I might have had to redo. I'm trying to find a good example. It doesn't really stand out, especially now that it's had a day to cure, but there's a couple little ripples in the sticker. And, you know, it's not a huge deal, but this being a display piece and my only real Voltron, I do wish it was perfect. But like I said, it's a minor gripe. If you want it to look perfect, spend the time painting it yourself. Hold off putting the stickers maybe until you painted it, because they're going to get one shot. I don't know if you'd be able to pull them off and reapply some sort of adhesive without destroying them. So you need to make your decision. You can either be impatient like me and put it all together, or take a little bit of time and make it even better. But as a neat little toy, these lines look great. These accessories look great. I really like the silver they used here. They could have done on everything. They actually like the white on the legs like that because it gives it sort of the feel and connection to the animation model versus the toy. I won't be surprised if Bandai does not produce another version of this that's either going to be chromed like the toy or more details and painted nicer like they've done with some of their Mugen Saga, like the Pharaoh. So enough about the lions. The lions are awesome. We had an instruction for each one. And within each instruction, it also talks about how to convert it to its part. And then we have one more set of instructions for weapons and whatnot. And as you see here, all the weapons combine to form a super gun. So let's go ahead and start with that. We'll pull off the shoulder weapons for each of the lions. Yeah, I think when you hold these in hand, the leg lines feel the best. The plastic is really nice quality, nice and heavy duty. So we'll start out, we need red weapon, and there's a slot. The yellow weapon, and that is another gripe. So these individual lion bladed weapons would have been nice to be painted the same silver as everything else. But then again, I mean, it's minor gripe. It's not. I mean, this is not a Soul of Chikoken figure. This is just a fun little mini model kit. Okay, so we've got the first part here. They did do a very good job on the instructions, because one thing to note is, see, this doesn't seem right. Before, I almost spoke too soon. They did do it. I feel like they did do a good job with the instructions. So this one bit does seem to be drawn incorrectly. They were intended for an international audience, at least an English-speaking audience. It did give a lot of good cues. Let's see, what am I doing wrong here? Okay, it's actually this way. Okay. They give you an order of when to assemble the parts. They give you The stickers, everything's labeled clearly. For the most part, they're intuitive and well thought out, but they do change a little bit of the logical order that is done in the some of the lines. And it's just an inconsistency thing. I just feel like someone most likely was added to the team, like a couple people had worked on this rather than just one. And if you had a Voltron growing up in the US, you probably aren't familiar with these weapons. This was a Golion thing, and I actually didn't know about it until the Soul of Chogokin had come out. So, getting this together. And as you can see here, as long as this is taking, is part of the reason I actually didn't film the building of these, because I had to take breaks, and it took, you know, a good 20 minutes each one, and even sped up, that's going to be 5 minutes of watching, maybe even more, of just watching me snap things together. And that isn't terribly exciting. Alright, so, got that. And it does incorporate, I believe it does incorporate all their weapons. As you see, easy to knock off. I'll put that one on last because it seemed to be the most finicky. And the line weapons do seem to add a little bit of reinforcement to holding this guy together. Alright, so let's try this again. Put that one in there. It's a short peg. Actually goes the other way. But yeah, it's a short peg. Not a lot of mass for it to grab onto. And the drawing actually shows it being installed the other way, but I don't see how that can work because the pegs are, see, they have this drawn flipped, and it should be the other way because this doesn't have, maybe it is right. Anyway, there we go. But yeah, there's the crazy looking Voltron cannon. So we've got that. A very nice looking sword. Only sticker that you had to add was the gem, and of course I don't feel like it looks that great because it's a curved jewel that's supposed to go in there, and the sticker doesn't curve very well to it. Since they painted this anyway, they might as well have painted that red. I think that would have been a better way to finish the sword. And you know, before we go into transformation sequence, let's go ahead and look at the shield. It does have one sticker here, actually the same sticker that was used on the sword, but the curve isn't as deep, so it goes well. The rest of these are colored pieces of plastic that snap together. And I think that looks pretty sharp. I do like the silver they used on here. Now let's go ahead and get this guy ready for Voltron. I think this will be the most exciting part, and let's start with the legs. And like I said, this is a parts former. So we're going to remove the head, and we're going to remove the legs. And you can see here the joint system they used. And then we are left with that. So we have larger ones for the rear. They just slide on here. Now, one thing I do notice is they don't really clear. Oh, you know what? That's the bottom ones. Sorry, the larger ones go on the bottom. Okay. And I guess there's some mass shifting going on here in the cartoon for transformation. So that goes like so, and we have the main part of it. And the tail folds in like that. So there's one transforming component that does remain. Head snaps on, and the new head does have a pivot. And so what we'll do here is there's a transformation in there. The torso comes apart, but rotates. And that, look at that, that is awesome. That gives us an ankle tilt. So that, a little bit of a toe crunch. Very simple transformation. You know, they probably could had incorporated the normal transformation in this, but I don't know if it would be have as much of a dynamic feel. So same with this line. Pop off the legs. And just so you know, the legs are different molds between the two. So if you are afraid you might mix things up, just keep around the set of instructions and you'll be able to see what they look like in the instructions, which is detailed enough so that you get the right legs on the respective line. So same here. Let's go ahead and get that. As I did this, I sort of been listening to lectures on programming in the midst of a C++ class, and that's been my audio as I put these together. So I took breaks here and there, mostly take notes and do things school related or deal with the kids. However, I do think 15-20 minutes is a reasonable amount of time. So one thing that really stands out to me is how much bigger the yellow lion's head is on this, even on this other version. I need to get another OG Voltron in my collection. I've had one in a very long time to see how that all compares. Alright, so we've got the legs here. And for the arms, we will have a similar treatment. We just pop off the legs like so. Just use a little bit of light friction. The tail goes away because there's not a transformation from that, and that actually becomes our shoulder joint. So we can move that down. Okay, remove the lion head and add our new one. So we've got that like so. And these have a little bit of a slot cut into them, and you can see it's the same on the peg, so it doesn't use the same type of peg that the leg lions use. And these are reversed. The larger ones are going to go on the upper section versus the smaller ones. And you can see the smaller ones have they have two slots here versus just the one, so you know which ones go where. You don't have to look up the instructions because they're not a huge difference. I mean, they're different enough to where you should be able to tell, but it may not be obvious at first. Alright, so and there we have one arm complete. So actually, one more step. We extend this joint. Nice transformation sequence. It even has a slight click, and there is our elbow. And look at that. That is a double jointed elbow. That's actually really awesome. That's going to give a lot of posability. And then of course, this doesn't come out necessarily, but I think if you don't push the peg in all the way, just like with the black line, you'll get a little bit more articulation out of that ball joint. But if you want it to be close, or it doesn't stand out as much, you can go either way. So that's red lion. Getting closer. Green lion, same deal. Pop off tail. Legs. And I hope the popularity that we've seen of the new Voltron series and the demand for the Voltron toys will continually bring us new Voltron toys. I think this is awesome, and at this rate, I'm sure we'll see a live action because of it if things keep growing in popularity. But I do love the Netflix series. I think it is great character development, excellent animation. I even like the look of the new line. So same deal here. Extend it a little bit, get a little bit more wrist rotation, double joint elbow, and there we have 4 of our 5 lions. Now on to the black lion. So the black lion probably has the most built-in transformation. So straighten the legs out, straighten the feet out. This is reminiscent of the old Voltron. Even though I've not held one in a very long time, I will never forget the transformation doing it back in the 80s. So we've got that. This is the where it gets a little weird. This is not kept. We actually dropped the forearms. And then rotation to the back. And they popped off because I have them out further than normal. You'll want to push them in for this because it will help unify that chest look. Same here, and I'm actually going to push in as I rotate so I don't pop them out again. So now you have that Voltron back there with the shoulders. I think I'd like to try putting the legs back there, but I think they're too big for this mode. So we've got that. Fold out the wings, fold up the wings, and then push them out. And there's a nice little, the groove in there actually seems to fit perfectly around those lion legs. So we've got the torso looking out, and these are already out. These can fold up, but they're already out because I was using the cannons, and so they also mount for the arms and the cannons. And then lastly, the tail. So we can look at a couple of articulation things. Actually, not lastly. It would only be lastly depending on how you want to handle your transformation sequence, because we have our lion head here, which we can go ahead and turn down. Have him ready for the Voltron configuration. I do want to talk about a little bit of the articulation since we have him here. There is multiple pieces here on the abdomen that allow you to sort of get some waist articulation. I think mostly the arching back is what you're going to see the most of. Ab crunch is not as strong. You do get some rotation. It's at the middle joint though. And the tail is in the way, but it moves easily. But it will be in your shot. We do have thigh swivel like I mentioned before. Have that. Legs can go out. And this should all be locked straight when we're done. And the reason I'm showing that now versus when it's combined is because I have a feeling once we have it all combined, it might be a little bit harder to pose since it's, it is a model kit. So now, let's go ahead and assemble Voltron. So we've got our blue line, and you can see the joints inside here. And we're just going to slide it in. Oh, and it locks pretty nicely. Okay. So there's the first one, and then the yellow line. Let's see, okay, and that does have a nice satisfying click, so you know that it's assembled. So now we can set him back here, get our nice stance, and move the camera so you guys can better see. And since these are just pegs, just work it nicely here. Nothing's really falling apart as we're doing this. This is my first time installing all this as Voltron. And I do have to say, it all is very stable. I've had transformers that are pre-built, screwed together, solid plastic, be far more finicky when trying to do a combined mode than this is being. So this is impressive. This is well engineered. Little model kit. So, of course, there's one more important thing, and that's what I saved for last, because that's how it works in the cartoons. The horns go down, and then we have the lion's mouth. Now, remember, everything's small, and okay, what makes this easier is a little push back here. So if you can't get your fingernails in there, there is a little tab if you raise the head all the way up, and you do have the mouth that opens on its own, but you can catch the face. And pow, we have formed our Voltron. And you know what? This is awesome. Even with all the minor little nitpicks I've had throughout it, this is pretty awesome to look at. This is exciting. So we do have the same kind of neck articulation. He can look down, he can look up, he can look around. I mean, this is really cool. Now, these smaller pieces, you'll not want to use as much force on. And as you can see, the face is already pre-painted with the lion's face, and I think that was done because that is such an integral part of the character's look, and probably the most remembered form of this, that they want that to be perfect versus, you know, the lion pieces, which do sort of fall in the background of the character once you have combined Voltron. So, but we do have the weapons here. And let's start with the big finicky cannon, just because I'm not going to be keeping that in there. And this piece does keep falling out. I do wish that peg was a little bit longer. But the hand, you see how well it opens? I was afraid that fitting stuff in there was going to be a chore. There is a peg on the inside. So let's go ahead and move his wing back. And we can put the peg in there. And then put this piece back on that keeps falling off. I'm going to try some furniture polish or something on that peg and see if I can improve its grip. And there we have the Voltron cannon. Oh, of course, lock the hand back. But the peg is doing all the work. But yeah, we do have the big monster cannon for doing those cool shots. And this guy, I mean, he's pretty stable. I mean, I keep knocking him, other than that one piece that keeps falling off. He's stable. They did an excellent job. He's got hill spurs here. Excellent job designing this guy. So let's go ahead and take this cannon out. This is probably my least favorite weapon of his. We're here for the melee weapons. So open the hands up. We've got the shield. Shield has a peg on the inside. Actually has two pegs. So you could hold it forward like this, or you could turn it this way and have it against his arm. So there's two configurations for the shield. I think that's pretty cool and well thought out. I'm going to put it on the side. And then the sword has a peg built in as well. Now this rotates, and I think that was intentional to only have it in there a single peg so it's easier for installation. They really did an excellent job on their engineering. So look at that. Oh wow. For something so simple, so dynamic, so, you know, stylized, because this is not buying a Soul Shigoken, this is not buying the original Voltron toy, this is something that is more akin to the animation model. They did an excellent job. I think I'm glad I got this over the Mattel Comic-Con version that didn't transform at all. I think this one has a nicer final look, and if you want to look even better, you could spend the time in painting it. And this is something, from experience I've had with some of their other candy toys, is over time the stickers tend to lose tack, you know, sort of fall off. These stickers do feel a bit more adhesive. They're a little bit thinner too than what I recall. So they may hold up, they may not. So if they do start falling off in the next 5 years or so, that gives you an excuse to repaint it. But hopefully you can salvage the numbers at least to put those back on. But places I definitely would paint would be the belt. I think that could look better painted. Because all these areas that have stickers are textured. They have depth, they have volume. So giving them a paint job versus just throwing a sticker on it will make it a better looking figure. But as just something to play with on the desk, as a Voltron that you can actually get now, that is modern, that looks like the character model, that transforms and all that. This is an awesome option. This is probably the best bang for your buck you're going to get right now. If you can get it in the $40, $60 range that's currently come out. I'm sure it's going to go up, but I won't be surprised if we see another run of these, or if we see recolors of this, because there's a Comic-Con version, which is slightly different, and there is the this version, but, I mean, there's no guarantee, but I really wouldn't be surprised if we see a special edition that comes out either pre-tampoed or at least with chrome parts and that are more toy reminiscent than that. And before I go, I have one little addition. Something I realized right when I was finished that I want to add is, for as dynamic as this guy, as great looking as he is, I kept thinking, you know what, I want to take pictures of him. It would be really great if he could do a flight mode, sort of jumping in the air, something like that. And I'm like, but there's not a real way to do it. However, I was looking at the figure and there was something that was hiding. So if you remove the tail, because you could leave the tail attached, but you're going to want to remove the tail so you can better do it. And of course it's not coming out. There, so pull the tail out. Pull it straight. You can see here that there's grooves cut on there, taken out easily. And there is a pig hole in the back that is just the right size for a Figma display. So now, even though he is a little heavy, especially for his size, I mean, he is a really thick plastic, we can get some dynamic poses. And I might have to find another Figma stand. Okay, there we go. So yeah, we can get him floating in space. This is awesome. So this is just another great thing. The stand might not be strong enough for his weight, but you can at least get it angled in a way to hold him up, so you can do one-legged poses or try to do sort of a fake flying pose or whatever. Yeah, one more thing. So anyway, just wanted to add that before I went. I think it's an awesome figure. Minor quirks, just some things to be aware of as you're doing it, especially if it's a first-time model kit for you. But it is well-engineered, well thought out. Just take your time, and I think this will be something a lot of you will enjoy. Well, like always, let us know below in the comments if this Voltron is worthy of your collection. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.